Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are diving deep into the hidden mechanics and the sheer professional rigor behind seamless vacation planning. If you've ever wondered how travel pros build perfectly paced, flawlessly executed trips, well, you are in the exact right place.
Let's start by thinking about our own past travel disasters, right? What actually makes the difference between a highly stressful ordeal and a total masterpiece of a getaway? I mean, we've all known that feeling of needing a vacation just to recover from our vacation. So today, we're going to crack the code on how the pros make absolutely sure that never happens.
Okay, so here's our master blueprint for today's explainer. First, bridging the travel gap. Second, the architecture of time. Third, the resolution pyramid. Fourth, tailoring to the audience. Fifth, fit versus GIT profiles. And finally, engineering the perfect flow.
Section 1. Bridging the travel gap.
To lay our foundation here, we really need to understand the unique structural problem that tourism actually presents. Because think about it, it's totally different from almost anything else we buy. So let's quickly define two critical industry terms that represent the start and the finish line of our travel transaction. The point of sale, or POS, is where you buy it, like your local travel agency or just your laptop sitting on your couch. But the point of service delivery, the POSD, is the actual hotel in Rome or that gorgeous beach in Bali. And those 2 points, they are thousands of miles apart.
Because tourism products literally cannot be put in a cardboard box and shipped via mail to the buyer, the itinerary steps up to serve as a vital bridge. It actively moves the buyer to the product. A travel agency doesn't manufacture physical goods. Instead, it produces the tourism product by engineering this exact bridge. Without it, the entire transaction just completely collapses.
Section 2. The architecture of time. Now that we've got our bridge, let's talk about the primary building material we use in travel design, and that is time. Unlike physical products that you measure in weight or size, travel is measured entirely in duration. A professional sorting filter prevents the outright waste of a traveler's absolutely most valuable asset by engineering a timeline that perfectly balances activity density with unstructured rest. All the chaotic ideas go in, and a neat linear timeline comes out. It focuses on 3 main things: maximization, getting the absolute most out of every single day; pacing, making sure you don't burn out; and value assurance, ensuring you actually get exactly what you paid for.
Section 3. The resolution pyramid.
So, how do we actually construct this optimized timeline step by step? Well, we build upwards. The pros always start from a very basic skeletal schedule of activities, literally just the pure flow of point A to point B. Then they reinforce that skeleton with technical back-end details, things like exact transport times and accommodation types. And finally, they wrap the whole thing in a descriptive narrative. That's the appealing, glossy brochure language that the client actually gets to see and get excited about. And when you look at how this all stacks up, it's pretty clear that the beautiful marketing facade on top relies entirely on the precise engineering of the technical and skeletal layers down below. I mean, if the skeletal foundation is flawed, say the driving distances are just physically way too long, absolutely no amount of fancy descriptive marketing at the top is going to save that trip from being a total disaster.
Section 4. Tailoring to the audience.
All right, once the master structure is built, it actually has to be translated into different blueprints depending on who is using it. One size definitely does not fit all in travel execution. So from the central master itinerary, totally different versions get spun out. Well, the tourist just needs a simple brochure of essential check-in times and fun descriptions. The bus driver needs something completely different. They require a strict geographical blueprint of route maps and turnaround points. The tour manager needs absolute to-the-minute control over passenger lists, and vendors need highly specific schedules just to prep their facilities. It's this incredibly, perfectly synchronized network of documents.
Section 5. Fit versus GIT profiles. Now, beyond the workers who are actually executing the trip, the architecture changes dramatically based on the style of the traveler themselves. This comparison here really highlights the difference. The FIT, or Free Independent Traveler, requires high flexibility and lots of privacy. But the GIT, the Group Inclusive Tour, trades that flexibility away for strict synchronization, absolute security, and highly economical, fully prepaid fares.
So the really crucial takeaway here is that an agency has to engineer entirely different cost structures and logistical frameworks depending on which of these 2 profiles they're actually serving. An FIT trip is kind of like a custom-built sports car, right? Highly variable and tailored just for you. A GIT trip, on the other hand, is much more like a high-speed train system, rigid, perfectly synchronized, and built to move large numbers of people super efficiently. And here is exactly where it all comes together. This dynamic ecosystem engine takes raw elements, flights, hotels, tour guides, processes them through either that FIT or GIT path inside the agency engine, and then outputs a highly scalable, value-packed final product right at the point of service delivery. This right here, this is the alchemy of the travel industry. It's literally turning totally fragmented services into one cohesive, completely stress-free product.
Section 6. Engineering the perfect flow.
Now, to prevent this entire beautifully designed structure from just completely collapsing under the harsh reality of actual travel, professionals run a strict diagnostic audit before absolutely anything gets finalized. They calculate everything. I'm talking route maps to avoid backtracking, pacing that's specifically calibrated to the physical health of the tourists, aligning attractions with the client's actual interests to add value, and auditing crucial minutiae from local holidays down to monument closing times. It is a wildly exhaustive process. Look at the stark contrast here. Amateurs just list places to see, which creates that totally chaotic, zigzagging, backtracking mess. Honestly, it looks exhausting just thinking about it. Professionals, however, engineer a visually logical loop, deliberately scheduling strategic rest days. The golden rule here is never take your passengers for granted. A visually logical route on paper guarantees actual physical comfort on the ground. And to keep that logical loop totally intact, you absolutely must adhere to mandatory engineering codes. This means clearly outlining crucial structural elements. You have to explicitly include air travel days so the actual ground time is super clear. You must state time zone differences. And you have to identify ARNK, or arrival unknown, segments. That's simply when a traveler arrives in one city but departs from another, making their own way in between. Missing any of these details completely breaks the itinerary's continuity. Ignoring those mandatory inclusions or failing to buffer for completely normal delays, like unexpected train issues, transit times between stations, or just bad weather, creates massive structural hazards. Think about it. If you schedule a flight arrival at 1 p.m. and a walking tour across town at 1:30 p.m., you haven't engineered a trip. You've engineered a panic attack.
But hey, despite all this rigorous engineering, precise pacing, and intense calculation, perhaps the most important rule of all is to simply resist overplanning. Because leaving room to breathe, intentionally engineering open, unstructured space into that skeletal layer is what truly elevates a trip. Destinations simply do not conform to perfect schedules, and the real magic, it almost always happens in the margins, during those totally serendipitous detours. So we've covered bridging the POS to the POSD, the architecture of time, the layers of the resolution pyramid, and the vital differences in routing for different profiles. Next time you pack your bags, ask yourself, will you just be taking a trip or will you be architecting an experience? Think about how applying these hidden layers of professional design could completely transform your most valuable asset, your vacation time. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.